Hi, my name is Alex Fensky, and I'm a real estate problem solver. What I'm going to talk to you about in this video is what it means for you if your home, your inherited property, or your investment property is in the foreclosure or pre-foreclosure process. We'll talk about what that means and how much time you might have. And then in a future video, we'll talk about what some of your options are. So let's get started with talking about what a promissory note and a mortgage are to begin with. So when you purchase a piece of real estate, you sign, among a lot of other documents, you sign two documents. One is the promissory note, and the promissory note is the same as any other promissory note you might sign, like your car loan or anything else like that, where it's a promise to repay the money that you borrowed from the mortgage company based on certain terms, your interest rate and how much the payment's going to be. That's all spelled out in the promissory note. Now there's another document called the mortgage. And that mortgage is what attaches the promissory note to the real estate. And by attaches, what I mean is if you do not pay the note, then what the lender does is they can eventually go and see if they can take that real estate back from you. It serves as what we call collateral for the loan. So you sign the note, and then the mortgage attaches the note to the real estate. It works the same with a car, where you have a car note, and that note is attached to the car. So if you don't pay the note, they take the car. That's different from unsecured loans, where if you just have a credit card or some other kind of small loan that you take, if you don't pay it, they can charge you fees. They can come after you for the money owed, but there's no other piece of property it's attached to. So that's what a mortgage is to begin with. And I used the term a couple of times, default. So default means you stopped paying on the terms of the loan. And if that's happened to you, usually it's some tough circumstances that you're up against. Maybe you lost a job, maybe you lost household income from some other reason, maybe there's a divorce or death in the family. Whatever the case is, default is when you have stopped paying the terms of the loan. So you've stopped making that monthly payment. Now, a lot of people think that the moment you stop paying, that you're going to go in foreclosure and suddenly the home is going to get taken away from you. And that's not the case. In Illinois, and this is different in other states where the laws work differently. In Illinois, the foreclosure process takes several months. And again, there are states where that's not the case. So if you, quick pause and quick aside, if you're in a different state, then you need to get different advice from what I'm saying. But in Illinois, what would eventually happen is after you hit 30 days of not paying the loan, if your payment's due on the 1st, after the 30th day, they're going to record a late payment on your credit report. Now, there's no hard and fast rule on how quickly the lender actually starts the foreclosure process. It's really up to them. Technically, they could do it after, I think, 30 days. But in practice, we don't usually see the lender actually begin a foreclosure process or start the foreclosure lawsuit until you're at least 90 days delinquent. It could be sooner, but I've also seen it be a lot longer than that. At some point, the bank, if you've stopped paying and you didn't get caught up, they will file what's called a notice of default or a lis pendens. Those both mean the same thing. Lis pendens is just Latin for pending litigation. But the bank is filing a lawsuit to begin the process of taking the property back unless you can pay them whatever they're owed. So some point between whenever your loan goes into default and when the bank decides they're going to begin the foreclosure process, you've got a timeline there that could be 90 days, maybe more, and then they file the notice of foreclosure. After that, there's going to be several hearings where the bank's attorney comes into court. You should also go into court. You'll receive copies of all these notices, and you'll tell them what you're doing to get caught up or what options you're working on. As I said in a later video, we'll go into what some of your options are. But for right now, just know that there will be some hearings in between. You'll get mailed notices of all these hearings and when they're going to happen at the courthouse. But if nothing else is done, then eventually the court will enter a judgment of foreclosure against you. And the judgment of foreclosure means that they've heard the case, they've looked at everything, they've given everyone a chance to say what they need to say, and they're issuing a judgment in favor of the bank saying, yes, you have the right to now take this property back. That is not right there the foreclosure event. The bank doesn't get the home at that point. There's going to be a waiting period. And after that waiting period, there's going to be a notice period where the bank is going to say they have to go through the court and say, okay, we're filing now to actually conduct the sheriff's sale. Now, the sheriff's sale is also known as the foreclosure auction or the foreclosure sale. And that is actually the foreclosure. That's when we say a foreclosure, that's the actual thing that happens that is the foreclosure event. And depending on what county you're in, typically it's the county itself that conducts the sheriff's sale. And it's either in the courtroom, or if you're in Cook County, it's in the Daily Center by the copier. And they rifle through a bunch of properties that are scheduled to be foreclosed that day. And they're open for bidding. Anyone can go in and buy one of those properties with cash. But if nobody bids on that property at the auction, then it goes back to the bank. And now the bank owns the property. That's what a foreclosure is. So, again, some important things to know through all of this is that, number one, it is likely going to be 90 days or more before the bank begins the foreclosure proceedings. Number two, once they begin them, foreclosure proceedings typically take a bare minimum of about 4 to 6 months. But if you get involved and you show up to the hearings and you talk to somebody like me, or you get a foreclosure defense attorney or something, and you're taking some kind of action, then you could maybe prevent the entire thing, or at minimum, get some more time to be able to exercise one of your options. It's not uncommon for foreclosures in that sort of scenario to go 9 months, 12 months, or even longer. So you're not in any great danger of losing the home immediately if you're watching this video because you've received that notice of default. It's probably worth noting too that even if the bank does take the property back at the foreclosure auction, that doesn't mean that they're going to come knocking on your door that day. They're going to be giving you a notice to say, hey, we need you to be out by this date, and then you got to be out by that date. So the one thing is there's no huge emergency, but you got to act quickly because any of the solutions to this stuff do take time. Now, you probably already realized this, but this is a very brief overview of what happens in a foreclosure. There's a lot to it. So if this is a position that you're in right now, I'd really encourage you to reach out to me for maybe just a conversation about what some of your options might be. I can actually look up the property, look up the foreclosure case, and see where things stand. But it's important to know that you probably have at least 6 different options of things that you can do after the foreclosure is filed in order to either prevent, delay, avoid it, or just make the most of the situation. So if you want to learn more about that stuff, reach out to me, click subscribe, watch some of the other videos about some of the foreclosure options, and we'll be happy to help if you want to reach out. Again, my name is Alex Fensky. I'm a real estate problem solver, and I hope to hear from you soon.